Look around your home. So many things of value, treasured memories, and irreplaceable items. So this winter, as you keep warm, keep safe. Get a metal container for fireplace ashes. Have the furnace checked and the chimney cleaned. Test carbon monoxide and smoke alarms, and be sure to give space heaters space. To learn more, go to mass.gov/keepwarmkeepsafe, because so many things can't be replaced.
Hello, I'm Lunenburg Fire Chief Patrick Sullivan, and this is Fire Lieutenant Mark Bursch. We're here to present the Department of Fire Services Keep Warm, Keep Safe program. Our goal is to protect lives and property by raising public awareness of the hazards associated with cooking and improper use of heating sources. Last year, Massachusetts saw a record number of fire fatalities across the state, many of them connected to either problems with heating systems or cooking accidents. So hopefully this program will present the information that you need to A, cook safely, and B, maintain your heating systems properly in your home. Okay, so what's the extent of the problem? In 2012, cooking was the leading cause of residential building fires and injuries. Heating-related fires were the second leading cause of residential fires. Cooking and heating-related fires together accounted for 81% of all residential fires in 2012. To just kind of show you the numbers that were involved with this, in 2012, there were almost 12,000 cooking-related fires. They resulted in 3 civilian deaths, 88 civilian injuries, 29 fire service injuries, and almost $14 million in property loss. It was the leading cause of injuries in fire. And for heating equipment fires, there were over 2,000 equipment-related fires across the state. They resulted in 1 civilian death, 13 injuries, and 23 fire service injuries, and caused an additional $8 million in property losses. In this presentation, we'll talk about the ABCs of life safety, cooking safely, and proper maintenance of heating equipment. So it's the ABCs of fire safety. Simple things like having working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Holding home fire drills and knowing 2 ways out of every home in your house. And having a meeting place when you get outside. Properly servicing and maintaining your heating equipment and not using kitchen appliances for heat. Heating equipment is the leading source of carbon monoxide in the home. It's also critical to have chimneys cleaned annually to prevent chimney fires, as well as disposing of ashes properly and making sure that if you're using space heaters, that space heaters have space. So let's talk about smoke detectors first. Smoke detectors are required in all residential occupancies. If your home was built after 1975, they're required to be hardwired. If they were built later than that, like after 1997, they should be hardwired as well as have battery backups in them. What a lot of people don't realize is smoke detectors don't last forever. A smoke detector has a lifespan of only about 10 years, and carbon monoxide detectors only about 5 years. A lot of houses that we go into have detectors that have been there since the 1970s, 80s, 90s. They may still work when you push the button, but what we find is they don't properly work anymore. So it's very important to look at your smoke detectors and replace them every so often. Again, if it's a smoke detector every 10 years, carbon monoxide detectors every 5 years. Newer devices will actually have a manufacture date, so you know when it's time to replace them, and a lot of them will actually begin to chirp to tell you that it's time to replace them. If you can't find a date on the device, the smoke detector or the carbon monoxide detector, chances are it's more than 5 or 10 years old and you should replace it. The other important thing with detectors, remember, change your clock, change your batteries. Twice a year we change our clocks for daylight savings time. Remember to change the batteries in your smoke detector or your carbon monoxide detector at the same time. It's an easy, simple way to remember to make sure that you always have good batteries in those devices. Home fire drills. We teach our children very well how, with fire drills in the schools. Unfortunately, we don't always think about that at home. No two ways out of every room in your home. Firefighters do that all the time instinctively wherever we go. We always look for a second way out. Because it's been documented that people 70 to 80% of the time in an emergency will try to leave a room the same place that they came in from. So it's very important to always look around for a second way out. Another important thing is to have a meeting place outside, whether it's a tree, a mailbox, a neighbor's house, something that everyone in the home knows to go to that place once they get outside. This is critical for the fire department when we show up, and if there's only one or two people there outside and they're saying they can't find someone, all of our effort's going to be going into looking for that person in the house, possibly to the detriment of trying to fight the fire. If we know everybody's out, we can concentrate on that and that alone. Another important thing is once you're outside, stay out. Get out and stay out. Many fire fatalities have been people that have gotten out safely and they've gone back inside to look for another person, a pet, belongings, and they've been trapped by the fire. If there's somebody else still in there or there's something important, let the firefighters know. We'll go in and do our best to try to get them. But once you're outside, stay outside. Why is it so critical that once you're outside, you got to stay outside and to know these things? Because you have very little time to get out. Hollywood has created a myth of what a fire is like, and a lot of those myths are based on how fires burnt 40 and 50 years ago, and it's changed a lot. The following video was made by Underwriters Laboratories, and it shows the difference of what they call legacy furniture or furniture that you probably found in homes in the 50s, 60s, up through the 70s and early 80s. These materials consist of natural materials, solid wood, cotton, wool, natural materials. The other room that was developed for this simulation was a room that has modern furniture, stuff that was built probably mid to late 80s and later. Synthetic fibers, pressboard type materials. And as you'll see in the video, the difference in how quickly these fires burn. Basically what was done here is in a laboratory setting, they created these two rooms. They're identical size, and they have identical amounts of furniture within them. As I said, the room on the left, what they call the legacy room, is all older style furniture that's all natural materials, solid wood. The room on the right is all modern furniture, pressboard, synthetic materials, what you find in a typical room today. The difference with the modern room is a lot of that material, it's all synthetic, it's all plastic. It burns much, much more differently, as you'll see in this video. Both of these rooms, a fire was started at the same time on the couch in each room. It doesn't seem like much right now at this point in the fire. You'll see just a small fire on the left-hand side beginning to burn. Easily put out with a cup of water. You don't see much on the fire on the right at first, but this will quickly change. At a minute into the fire, you can start to see some smoke on the right-hand side. Notice how thick and dark that smoke is compared to the fire on the left. The fire on the left, again, could probably be put out with a cup full of water or two. The fire on the right is starting to be more noticeable. Notice the thick, thick smoke. It's all unburned fuel. Extremely toxic. Now picture at this point roughly, maybe you came into the room, you noticed the fire. Okay, you think, okay, I'm going to go try to put the fire out now. I'm going to go look for water. So you go to the opposite end of the room. You're looking for a pan, container to put water in. You're looking around. Keep an eye on the time. This is real time now. Notice how the smoke in that room is banking down. The temperatures are increasing rapidly in that room. The fire on the left, still barely visible. Could still put that out with a cup or a pan full of water. That fire is spreading rapidly. It's doing two things. It's generating that smoke in that room. As I said before, that smoke is extremely toxic. It's also banking down lower. The fire's getting bigger. The other thing it's doing, it's spreading that heat to all that furniture in the room, increasing that temperature. All that other furniture in there, now that's beginning to generate combustible gases, fuel for the fire coming off of that. Now this is about a minute from when I mentioned that maybe you'd go try to find a pan of water, put that fire out. At this point, a simple pan of water, when you've gotten back, you're not going to put that fire out. You probably aren't even going to be able to go into that room at this point. The smoke is banking down. Notice how it's pushing out of that room. It's already filling up the container and trying to spread through the house. If this was a real house, the first floor would probably be full of smoke now. If you look closely in the video, you can see how all the furniture in the room, it looks almost like smoke coming off it. It's actually the material starting to break down, generating more combustible gases that will burn. That room is basically unsurvivable at this point. This is the point that firefighters call flashover, when the entire room reaches its ignition point and bursts into flame. 3 minutes and 30 seconds from the time that fire was started. That room is completely unsurvivable. Firefighters, even with our equipment, could not survive in that room. You'd need a large hose line to be able to extinguish that fire. The fire on the left is what people still think fires are like. That fire could probably still be put out with just a simple fire extinguisher. The other room is fully involved. And as I mentioned, this is what Hollywood has made people to think fires are like on the left-hand side. When you watch fires on TV, they look like they're clear. You can see in that, and there's not a lot of heat. In reality, the heat is incredible. That fire on the right-hand side would have probably killed anybody who walked into that room at about the 2-minute mark. This is why it's so critical to get out of the building, get away from the fire. They spread so fast. As you can see, the old furniture, even at the 15-minute mark, the fire is starting to spread to the rest of the couch. But it really hasn't taken off yet. It probably would need a hose line from a fire engine at this point to put it out. And now a full half hour into that fire, the room on the left, the old style furniture has finally reached flashover. Unfortunately, this is what people's expectation of what a fire is going to do, while the fire on the right in the modern room is what it really does nowadays. It's such a change with the difference in the fuels in the rooms that even firefighters have changed how we fight fires now and our tactics, because it's changed so much and the fire reaches that level so quickly now. For cooking safety, if you remember nothing else, remember, stand by your pan. Never leave a cooking, boiling, broiling, or frying pan or other item unattended on the stove. So many fires have resulted from someone putting something on the stove, turning it on, they've walked away, and they forgot about it. Or they laid down and they dozed off and forgot about it. And next thing you know, now the fire's spread to the cabinetry or the kitchen. So never ever leave something unattended. It's also important for burn safety. If you have small children around, never leave something unattended on the stove. Always make sure the handles are turned inward so they're not sticking out where a small child can reach up and grab a hold of them. Put a lid on a grease fire to smother it. And we'll talk about that in the next video and show why that is so important. Never move a burning pan. Many, many fires have been spread because people's instinct is to pick the pan up and try to carry it out of the room or take it outside. Invariably, what happens is either the pan spills and burns the person, and then they drop the pan, and now the fire's spread everywhere in the kitchen. The best thing you can do is just to put a lid on it and not to move it. Be careful wearing loose-fitting clothing when you're cooking. Wear tight-fitting clothing. A lot of cases of fires or burn injuries have resulted because someone's been wearing like a loose-fitting bathrobe, and the fire has caught the sleeve, or when they were reaching over the stove, it caught on their sleeve and they didn't realize it. Remember to stop, drop, and roll if your clothing does catch on fire. We teach children that very well. Kids can repeat that simply. Unfortunately, a lot of middle-aged and older people don't remember that. Remember to drop down on the ground Cover your face and just roll until the fire is out. Just running will just fan the flames and make it worse. And last but not least, never, ever, ever throw water on a grease fire. This next video will show graphically why it's so important to never put water on a grease fire.
What would you do if this happened on your stovetop? Your first reaction may be to throw water on it, but this is a grease fire. Water on a grease fire creates an explosion. 16-year-old Creston experienced it firsthand.
I came back up and saw smoke everywhere in the kitchen and the fire detectors going off, and so when I looked in the kitchen, the pot was on fire.
He reacted as most of us would and tried to put the fire out with water.
I moved the pot to the sink and cut the water on, and that was it. And I tried to move my arms back, but the grease came on too fast. When it burned my hand and arms, it took all my skin pigment color off, and all you can see was just pink.
Creston suffered second and third degree burns on his arms, but thankfully, he's going to make a complete recovery. What you might not know is it doesn't take much water to make this grease fire explode. Look at it in slow motion. When even a small amount of water is thrown on the superheated grease, it turns to steam immediately and expands rapidly, just like a fireball. That steam carries the grease with it and creates a bigger fire.
The simplest thing to do if you get in a situation where the pot is simply burning is to put a lid on it and turn the heat off. If you don't have a lid, then turn the heat off and exit the home and dial 911 and let us come.
House fires can get out of control quickly.
Heating equipment. A lot of people don't think about the fact that heating equipment, like any machinery, needs to be maintained regularly. Regular maintenance can prevent many problems with not only gas, but wood stoves and oil burners as well. Have your system serviced by a professional at least once a year. This includes oil burners, gas furnaces, and chimneys. And remember not to let oil furnaces get 100% empty. A lot of times that can cause problems with the furnace. If the oil runs out completely, the system can draw water or other debris and corrosion from the bottom of the tank in, and it can cause problems and make the furnace run improperly. And that it needs to be serviced by a professional. Remember, for new system installations, permits are required for any installations that are done. Oil burners require a permit from the fire department. Gas furnaces require a permit from the gas inspector, and wood stoves require a permit from the building inspector. Have a professional install new equipment. Unfortunately, we've had more than one incident over the years of equipment that was installed either by the homeowner or by someone who didn't have the proper knowledge. And sometimes it's caused problems immediately. Other times it's caused problems many years later because of an improper installation. And that ultimately it either caused a fire or a malfunction and that. So always have professionals install new equipment. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is called the silent killer. Heating appliances are the leading source of carbon monoxide in the home. From 2004 to 2008, 46% of all carbon monoxide calls occurred November through February. 95% of all carbon monoxide incidents occurred in a residential building. So that means that 95% of all incidents occurred in a home or a residential dwelling where people live and sleep. And that's why it's very important that we know about carbon monoxide and have the detectors in our homes. The graph here shows that winter is the peak time for all carbon monoxide calls. January, February, March, October, November, and December are the peak months for carbon monoxide calls, but we do have them throughout the year. Carbon monoxide is called the silent killer. Nicole's Law, requiring carbon monoxide detectors in homes effective March 2006, Nicole's Law came about when Nicole Garofalo was in her home and the snow drifted and blocked the vent for the furnace in her home, pouring carbon monoxide into the home, which resulted in her death. This is why Nicole's Law is named after her and requires all residential dwellings to have carbon monoxide detectors in them. It also applies to buildings with attached garages because cars are also one of the leading sources of carbon monoxide. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to heat with your oven. That would pour CO into the room. If you have a problem with heating, then you want to look for a fuel assistance program or another resource in order to heat your home. Solid fuel heating safety. Solid fuel consists of wood stoves, coal stoves with chimneys, fireplaces, pellet stoves, and furnaces. It is very important that you dispose of your ashes properly. You want to use a metal container with a lid. You do not want to use cardboard or a plastic pail. And you want to make sure that you dispose of your ashes a good distance away from your home. And you want to make sure you spread them out and wet them down. If they stay contained in a pile, then they can keep the heat and cause a fire from the ashes. Solid fuel heating safety. You want to clean your chimney regularly, and you want to make sure that you maintain your stoves, particularly your pellet stoves. You want to make sure that they're cleaned on a regular basis and the ash is disposed of properly. For your pellet stoves, for installation, you want to make sure that you have a building permit for them, and the building inspector checks all wood stoves and pellet stoves. And it's important that you have a professional install them and that you have them inspected so that you have a safe operating heating source in your home. This video shows what happens during a chimney fire. This is a couple liners stacked on top of each other, and in this demonstration they're going to light a fire inside of the liners. The liners are meant just to transport smoke, not to have flame and fire in them. A lot of people think that the best way to clean your chimney of all of the soot is to just have a good chimney fire. Well, this is going to show you why having a good chimney fire to clean your chimney is a bad idea. What it will do is the clay liner is not designed to withstand the heat and the temperatures that the flame produces. So you can see that this is a full chimney fire within these two clay liners that are inside most common chimneys. The heat will end up breaking down the liner. As you can see, a piece of it has just fallen away. And this would allow for the fire to get into the structure or to seep carbon monoxide from burning into your home. So it shows the cracking of the lining from the chimney fire, and you want to make sure that this is something that if you have this condition in your home, you want to call the fire department and we will come out and extinguish it. Then you want to have your chimney serviced by a professional, which should be done at the beginning of every season anyway. You never know when a squirrel might want to make his home in your chimney, and then when you go to start a fire, it fills your house up with smoke, or worse, it's a chimney fire that could spread into the home and develop a fire in your home. The other thing I want to talk to you today a little bit about space heaters. Space heaters need space. You want to keep them 3 feet away from anything that can catch fire: clothes, beds, furniture, curtains, newspapers, or walls. Do not use space heaters as your primary source of heating. You want to use those as a secondary source, and you want to remember that they're very hot. If needed, you want to use a heavy-duty extension cord. The space heaters draw a lot of power, and if you're using too light of a cord, this could cause an unsafe condition or a fire. You want to make sure that the plugs, because the space heater draws so much power, that your plugs are in good shape and that the cord on the space heater is in good condition. If there are any problems, you should replace before using. When you purchase a space heater, it is best to buy one with a mark of an independent testing lab, such as a UL or a factory mutual. These will meet the current regulations and have your automatic shutoffs and grills to protect the heating element. Kerosene heaters are illegal in the state of Massachusetts. Any liquid-fired space heater is illegal to use in the home. They pose a high risk of carbon monoxide poisoning and producing carbon monoxide in the home. They may be for sale in other states. We suggest that you leave them in the other states and don't bring them into Massachusetts because they are unsafe in your home.
It is serious, and it's not something that a lot of people maybe think of or think, hey, it could happen to me.
But it can. Each year, more than 19,000 home heating fires are caused by space heaters. And half of all home heating fires take place during December, January, and February.
The most alarming statistic is out of the home fires, 4 out of 5 deaths are caused by alternative heating sources. So that's why we find it very important to take care of our members.
Nationwide's brand new Belongings Burn House is one way we're working to keep our members safe. With the help of the Orange Township Fire Department, Nationwide demonstrated a live bedroom burn to educate our members and the public about the dangers and devastation of alternative heating home fires. To prevent alternative heating fires in your home this winter, follow these tips. Always place the heater on a hard, level, non-flammable surface, not on rugs or carpets. Ensure the heater is at least 3 feet from anything that can burn, such as bedding, furniture, and drapes. Keep children and pets away from space heaters. Never leave a space heater on when you leave a room or go to sleep. Install working smoke detectors on every level of your home and test them monthly. Use a heater that has been tested to the latest safety standards and certified by recognized testing labs. Ensure your heater is the right size for your home to avoid excess carbon monoxide. Plug an electric-powered space heater into an outlet with enough capacity to avoid using an extension cord.
I think it's a great thing. We're proud to be in coordination with Nationwide to help educate the public. Nationwide is here to educate, to get the word out, so hopefully we can prevent future fires related to space heaters and death.
I'd like to take a minute and go over a few resources we have for the fire safety and fuel assistance. These are good resources for you for additional information if need be, and can also inform you about things that we haven't discussed today. You can always, if you have any questions, you can call us at the Lunenburg Fire Department at 978-582-4155. Also, the Department of Fire Services website has this program, the Keep Warm, Keep Safe, on it, so that you can review that information if you would like to. Also, you can go to the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA website, which has this program and other good, useful, safe programs for the home. Also, the U.S. Fire Administration and American Red Cross. For fuel assistance, just in case you may need it, fuel assistance programs can help with heating system maintenance and weatherization. For fuel assistance, you can contact the Department of Housing and Community Development, the heat hotline, and there's also a website that you can go to and click on heating assistance.
For other fuel assistance, the Executive Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, and click on Winter Heating Help. You can also contact the State Attorney General's Office and click on Consumer Protection, then Home and Housing.
In conclusion, number one, try to learn more about fire safety. Take advantage of some of these other resources that we have, that we showed in the program here. Cook safely. Remember, stand by your pan and put a lid on it if you do have a grease fire, and never ever use water to try to put out a grease fire. Be smart about your heating choices in your home this winter. Make sure your heating systems are properly maintained and that they work properly. Don't use alternative heating sources in manners that they weren't meant for. Don't use ovens to try to heat. Don't be afraid to look at heating or fuel assistance if you find the need for it, and that. It's much safer to try to reach out and use some of those resources than try to jury rig or use improper type of heating systems that can cause a fire or cause carbon monoxide poisoning. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, keep warm and keep safe.